Okay, sir. So we'll start the video session. So, welcome everyone. We will start the day 2 of the IIT Hyderabad Research Scholars Day, and I hope that the talks which have been delivered yesterday were beneficial to all the students. I would now request Diksha to take over the proceedings.
Thank you, Akash. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me thank you all for being there for yesterday's sessions. And I'm very sure you all must have enjoyed the presentations, learned a lot from the talks and colloquiums we had, and also resonated completely with the panel discussions. Although due to some internet issues, we could not conclude our workshop on art of scientific writing, but it will be scheduled soon in future. So let's commence today's sessions with all the more zest and welcome our first speaker for today, Professor Gandham Phanikumar from Department of Material Science and Metallurgical Engineering at IIT Madras. Sir did his PhD from IIT Bangalore in 2002. His research expertise include experimental and computational studies on laser welding and laser surface alloying of dissimilar metals. Sir has been a recipient of Saffron French Embassy Special Prize. He has also been awarded twice with the Young Metallurgist of the Year award. Sir has also received a research fellowship from Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, Germany. And the topic which he's going to conduct the workshop today is as valuable as his accomplishments. So friends, be ready with your pen and paper and pay close attention so you don't miss any critical information and details Sir is going to share with us on how to prepare a CV and write an SOP for applying in industry or academia. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Diksha. Good morning, everybody. I am happy to take part in this event. I, of course, wish that I did it in live. I always like to interact with the students in a classroom environment, but at least the COVID has given an opportunity that without much effort, we can do it online. Okay. So let's get started. So I was asked to speak on how to prepare a CV and SOP for job. So are you able to see my screen, the title screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we will start by having an interaction. So I will have you go to this particular website and then have the code number, which is I think the pin code of your institute. Enter that and have your option put up. Let us see what is your career choice of preference. So we'll have about a minute for that. I hope you are able to go to the website and enter that code 502205, and then you have the ability to give your option. And yeah, I can see that your options are coming in. I've got 4 options in. Hurry up, and this is a survey that we can do a few times in the seminar. I will do it. It also helps us in having some kind of an interaction during the talk. Otherwise, a monologue is generally boring. So you may also be curious, what are the others in this audience preferring? So go ahead and give your options, and then I will display the results in a moment, and you can see what others are thinking about. Okay, I will stop at 20 because we need to also move on. Okay, some kind of a sample. So I won't stop the poll. I will also make the poll visible at the end of the session, so you can see the complete results. But for a snippet, we will actually now show. Okay. So you can keep the tab not closed, because we will have few more such surveys coming up, so that you don't have to again enter the code. You can just go to the tab and click. So good, we have got a majority of you preferring the academic job and also R&D at industries. Okay, I think there's only one who said entrepreneurship. So that's interesting. So let us say, okay, fine, this is what it is, and we will look at that options again towards the end. Okay, so let me now go through the elements of a CV. Okay, and what are the various things that we look for? So the very first thing is personality traits. Okay, so you can see that we have got certain things, of course, factual details, etc. They're all always there, but personality traits are something that we normally don't pay attention. Okay, so things like initiative. Okay, so if you have been generally doing what is expected to be done by you, then that's good. It's like a hygiene factor. Okay, you are getting up in the morning, taking bath, eating breakfast. It's like that. You are expected to do something and you are doing it well, good enough. But maybe that's not sufficient for you to be offered a plum job. So one has to also show what is called initiative. Is there something that you thought of with your original thinking and brought up your volunteer spirit and moved forward? So we are always looking for that, because a job, particularly in the academia, we are supposed to come up with our own thinking time to time. Nobody is going to tell us what to do. Okay, even in industrial R&D job, once they are hiring you, they expect that you tell them what is to be done. Okay, and therefore initiative is something that you have to keep in mind. So time to time there will be opportunities in your department, in your institute, at various bodies, professional bodies, or co-curricular activities. So think of ways by which you can bring out your initiative. Evolution as opposed to just growth. For example, a caterpillar would grow, but then at some stage it will stop and then evolve to a butterfly. Okay, so similarly, we are generally looking at seeing, have you been just doing everything the same, whatever you have been doing, or have you evolved? So did you build on your strengths to actually take up something bigger task? Okay, so that is something that we want to just see coming out of your experience. Okay, exposure. Okay, we would like the person who is being employed to have a wide exposure. And if you have been traveling abroad, or at least making your presentation to audience who are elsewhere in the world also, that shows that you are exposed to views and perspectives from different parts of the world, and therefore we are interested to see your exposure. You can actually also say, okay, I have been invited to give a lecture in a particular company. I went for a short internship at some lab, and then I gave a presentation. So ensure that you have got adequate exposure, and that has to come out. Okay, and leadership. So leadership is something that we look for, because the kind of jobs that are meant for PhDs are generally at a high level, and they are generally expected to lead a team of at least half a dozen younger candidates, like for example those who are done with their bachelor's or master's. So they have to form a team and then run the team to do a particular task. So we would like the applicants to have some kind of a leadership skill. Now, during PhD, how do you get a leadership opportunity? For example, you could actually offer to take care of the summer interns and undergraduate student projects on behalf of your guide, and then show that you are able to guide them towards a meaningful work, while also managing your own research work. And that actually shows that you are actually getting prepared for your career. and it is not of any risk because the undergraduate projects are generally of less depth compared to a PhD problem. So there's not much of risk. And more importantly, you are going to save time for your advisor. So any time that you save for your advisor is basically meant for you, because then you can sit with your advisor and discuss about your topic more. Okay, so ensure that you are able to work with a team. So as an individual, you may be excellent, but a silo is actually not desirable in any of the jobs today, because we always have teamwork that is happening. So if you are having problems in striking conversations with people, engaging people, and getting things done by people who are working for you, then that is something that you have to find ways of addressing. Now you can see that there is some contradictory things that I am talking about. So look at the voluntary spirit and look at the teamwork. So which means that when you are actually volunteering, you are actually the member of the team, and when I'm saying the leadership, you are actually the team leader. That means that you are able to switch between roles and not have any ego about your delivery of the task. That's important, because in any research task, it's not necessary that you lead always. Okay, so sometimes you have to offer, sometimes you also have to tell people what to do. Okay, and of course the pyramidal nature of our population means that you are supposed to be also successful in competitions. So this success is already evidenced by your selection at premium institutes. So if you say that you have a PhD or a degree from a research institute that is quite popular, like for example IIT Hyderabad, it already means that you have been through a certain competitive examination or interview, etc., and got selected. But is that all, or after that, have you still maintained your edge? That is something that people would like to see. So, for example, if there is a debate competition, and whether it is a poster competition, metallurgy contest for materials people, or let us say there is a best oral presentation, a best poster presentation, any of those competitions, like essay writing competition, and there are sometimes DST is announcing some competitions where you could write a popular science article and they select some of them for display in their website and all. So see whether you can actually come up with any of those which you like, obviously. And if you can succeed in any of them, that actually goes into your CV. So people can see that you have initiative, you have evolved by building on your strengths, and you have exposure, and you can actually be part of the team and also lead the team, and you are successful against competition. So these are the kind of personality traits that we are very happy. Okay, I'm not mentioning the regular, factual things, because that all of us know about it. Now, one thing that is very strange that is not absorbed by many of the students who take up a PhD is that PhD, when you do, you are not supposed to seek a job. Okay, you're not supposed to seek a job. The reason is that it is expected that you are actually a job creator. Now, that's strange, because if you are a job creator, then how do you go about it? The idea is as follows. Nobody is going to advertise a job with a specific topic matching your PhD thesis or your research topic. Okay, so you're not going to find a job that actually matches your capability immediately. But what is expected is that by making yourself exposed to that company, talk to them, present your work, you are actually going to tell them that you have problem solving ability. So you want to tell them, saying that, look, I have solved a big problem for my research, so I'm going to solve problems in your industry. So if you hire me, I'm going to basically take care of some of your workload. So basically you are telling the company to say that open a job to take me, because I'm going to help you. So essentially you are going to create your own job first. Okay, that is the first thing that you have to do. You create your job first in the company by talking to them to open it up for you. Okay, because they don't know about your research topic, so they're not going to advertise one job specifically for you. So once you have opened up your job, obviously then you can actually open up jobs for your subordinates team, who are going to help you form a group to actually do that. So, and that is what is called a capacity building. So a company, let us say, for example, there's a company in Pune and they are going to do some forging, and let us say they want to actually also reduce the time required for their forging and have some simulation capability. So they hire a person who has done simulations using deform, and that person is going to hire 3 4 people under his guidance, and then you now have a team that can actually solve the forging problems, and suddenly the company has got a capability. So you have to basically show that you have got the capability building ability. Now you have to also lead the team there for the company, and so that has to be basically something that you have to be ready. And this is something again uh, uh, very very tricky. Okay, normally as a PhD student you are getting guidance from your guide about how long it takes for a particular topic. Your guide may say don't write these commitments in that abstract because by the abstract deadline you may not be able to finish this work, or they may say okay go ahead and commit because I think by then we would have finished this work, so you can commit and then we will manage it. So there is a sense of how long it takes for what topic, okay, or what work. Now that sense comes only with experience naturally, but it also comes when you actually look for that and engage with your guide to learn how to estimate the time. So estimating how much time for a particular task is a very important thing, because in any company, okay, even as an academician, if you are going to propose a project you have to tell how long it will take, and that timeline has to be given by you. So you cannot say sir let me just keep working and then I'll come back to you after 5 years when nobody's going to listen to that. Okay, you have to say okay, in 1 year I will do this, second year I will do this, third year I will do this, etc. Budget plan, you have to also tell how much does it cost. Nobody has infinite resources for you to take and then spend for your research project. Nobody ever. So we have to say okay, my work is going to take this much budget. The company may say okay, I can't give you so much, but we will offer this much, and can you then do your work. So you should actually be able to propose a budget which is aligned with the work elements, and this is something that you are going to do only when you propose a project. So your guide is going to make some proposals for getting fund for your lab, so please sit with him or her, offer your help, and then in the process learn how this is done. Okay, because this is something that you will need it as soon as you join the job. And in most of the jobs today there is no waiting time, there is no training period, there is no orientation period. You are basically going to run into the job straight. That is like the you're going to hit the road running basically. So better to actually have this exposure by the time we finish. Navigation is something that I mention it as navigating around obstacles that are surely going to come in research. Okay, no research topic is going to be straightforward. Okay, so you will definitely have some issues. Some equipment will be down. Okay, some license would have expired, some AMC would have expired, some budget would have been exceeded, or maybe there is a lockdown suddenly imposed and you can't access your lab. So there will be problems. I'm telling you, there will be problems always, and it's only about your ability to navigate around those obstacles time to time to ensure that the work is actually moving. So if the experimental work is stuck, do some analysis work or literature survey work or a computational work, but some work has to keep moving. So how do you navigate around the obstacles is something that you are going to learn. Now if you see that all these things are actually meant for actually the job giver, okay, usually. Now but you are the one who are going to take that kind of a job. So you can see that essentially as a research scholar, when you are going out, your mindset should be that of a job creator. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the employer and see how you can actually prepare yourself. Okay, now in this context, I want you to now and then I will show you some of these kind of snippets, because I want you to also read. Okay, so there's a very nice book by Carol Dweck. The book is titled Mindset. Okay, so there are two types of mindsets among people: what's called fixed mindset and what's called growth mindset. Fixed mindset means that it's like this. I ask you, can you swim? If you say I can't swim, that means it's a fixed mindset. Okay, very simple example. If you say that if I go through a swimming class, perhaps I can swim. Now that's a growth mindset. Okay, I can't is fixed mindset. If I am given opportunity to try, then I can is a growth mindset. It is important that we actually develop a growth mindset. It's not as if it's a personality trait, because in some aspects we have a growth mindset, in some other aspects we have a fixed mindset. But we have to be conscious of this fact. Okay, so feel free to go and pick up this book. from Carol Dweck and read more about the mindset. And what I want you to understand at this point is that try to get the growth mindset uh, aspect into your personality. Okay, and there are some tacit traits that we are looking for in CV. Tacit as in hidden. Okay, they are not evident immediately. They're tacit. So this thing why I'm just what I just mentioned to you is one of them. Growth mindset as opposed to fixed mindset. We want to see whether do you belong to growth mindset by the reading it. So it's like this is what is called as a reading between lines. Okay, when we read your CV, we want to see what type of a personality trait do you have. So the growth mindset is something that is going to come out when you actually write somewhere in a paragraph saying that I initially thought I may not be able to do this, but I learned these tools. Then I was able to go on to accomplish this particular task. I learned, for example, let us say Sage Math, the software. Then I did some mathematical integration, and then I put up analytical derivation. So which I thought I was not able to do by pen and paper, but with help from Sage Math, I was able to do a fairly complex mathematical derivation, for example. So that actually shows that okay, you are a person who actually can learn a tool and go on to accomplish a task, and therefore you have a growth mindset. So this is a tacit trait that we want to actually see coming out. Now, another thing is about adaptive. Okay, are you adaptive as opposed to rigid? So there are some people who say, I need an equipment which costs about $1 billion. So give me that equipment, otherwise I'm not going to do any research. Now, obviously, that's not going to sell. Okay, adaptive as in, can you adapt to the ecosystem or research infrastructures that is around you and make the best of it so that you can solve a problem. Okay, no point sitting in one place of the world and complaining that you don't have, because wherever you go, there is something that is not there. Okay, and therefore you have to be adaptive, and that is something again we are going to look for in seeing what is it that you are doing. Okay, and from the CV, when we read, we want to see, are you adaptive to the environment that you are in. Okay, so for example, you are in IIT Roped or IIT Mandi, then you are in the north of India, and therefore there are certain topics that are important there which get funded easily. And let us say you are in Madras, there's automotive companies that are there. So by looking at the environment, have you adapted your own research so that you can take an advantage of it and move forward? Now, gregarious as opposed to reclusive is again a trait that I have mentioned earlier. Gregarious as in a person who likes to be with others. Hmm. So are you a person? Are you a silo? Okay. So silo is not acceptable today. Okay. So gregarious as in you are actually hanging around with people. So you have friends. You have a team. You enjoy doing activities which have people skills involved. That is what we are looking for. Because when you are actually in an academic job, you have to meet people. And when you are in an industrial job, you have to get your work done by team. You have to then talk about it to your clients. It's all about talking and working with people. So do you actually have the ability to engage with people? Do you see people in the eye when you talk to them? Okay, these are the kind of things that we are basically looking for. So see how you can actually participate in certain activities that show that you have people skills. Okay, now curiosity is very important. Okay, curiosity is there with all of us when we were born, and we were all curious as kids. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. But over the time, actually, we stop being curious, and this is something that you should never allow to happen, because as a researcher, that is as good as death. Okay, so you have to be curious. So if you have a gadget with you, be curious, what is the processor in it, what is the memory in it, and what are the options in it. Okay, like that, whatever is around you. Okay, nobody is expecting you to be curious about everything in the world, but whatever is in your world, try to be curious about it. And at least when you are responding to a question, say that you are interested to know about it, but don't say, okay, I don't know, I don't care. I mean, that's not acceptable. So this ability also is coming out. Okay, but it's something that is not obvious. It's not, you cannot say I'm a curious person. That's not going to help. Okay, but it has to come out of your CV, what you write. Lastly is something very, very important. Okay, politically correct. Now this is something I have to tell you guys, because you are a generation that actually is so fascinated by the social media, and you are very interested in making your persona appear in social media. You want people to like the posts that you make, and you're getting upset if some friend of you doesn't like the post and all that. But in this process of social engagement, one thing that we often mistake is that we may actually fall into the trap of being politically incorrect. Hmm. and we may make some views public which actually are not really acceptable to a wider society. And so therefore do what is called ego surfing. Okay, what is ego surfing? Basically looking for you in the internet. Look at in the internet what is it that is available about you, and ensure that there is nothing available about you which is politically incorrect. This is very must, because when your job employer is going to look at you, they are going to basically look up about your personality trait. Particularly if it is a high paying job, they are basically going to see what kind of a person. Okay, there are people who say left leaning is great. There are some who say right leaning is great. But I'll tell you, safer to be neutral. Okay, same way with respect to the religious versus having a secular outlook, a liberal versus, for example, a traditional outlook. All these things are very much quite clear. So what is politically correct is not that difficult to understand. But please ensure suppress your urge to express a very extreme view in a public forum which goes into archive. So ensure that you have a politically correct view. And before you go for jobs, go and look at your tweets, go and look at your posts, delete whatever is not desirable, and keep it clean. Okay, this is very important. Okay. Okay, now a couple of more things, and then we again go for a survey. Being self-aware. Okay, you should be able to tell about your work in a shorter duration or an elaborate duration, or in just 2 seconds. You should be able to address an audience which is not a technical audience, or maybe very highly technically capable. For example, you may have the Minister of Education visiting your institute, and you are expected to tell about your work in just 1 minute. Or, for example, you are expected to tell about your work to some parents and grandparents visiting your campus as a open day, for example. Or kids are showing up in your lab and saying that tell me about your work, and you are going to explain the kids. So different audience, different duration of time, and different context as in defending your exam in a viva, or telling about your work for seeking funds, or talking about your work in a conference, a different context. So you should be able to express yourself in all these ways. And always keep thinking, what is the wow factor about your work? Okay, and look for it, ask your guide, and then make sure of that. Because time to time you will face a question. Somebody will ask, what is the big deal about your work? Okay, it was a very rude question. I'm telling it in a rude way because I want it to reach. Okay, what is the big deal? Why are you doing this work? And then you have to then think, okay, what is the wow factor? What is it that others have not done till now that I am going to do and show? Be conscious and be ready with it. So the moment that question comes, you give the answer, and then they say, oh, this girl is bold. Okay, and she knows what she's doing. That's all. Okay, and the depth. By depth, I want you to just think of an approach that Toyota used to do whenever they have a failure in their engines. They ask 6 questions one after other. For example, there is one question, there's an answer that came, there's one more question after that, another follow-up question, another follow-up question, another follow-up question, and so on. So they go up to 6 levels, and it's apparently in 6 levels of depth, you can basically address any difficult problem that you can encounter, at least in a world's largest automobile company like Toyota. For example, in your research topic, let us say you are talking about X-ray diffraction, you can ask questions. What are the other diffraction techniques that are there? What are the other formula that are there? And what is the interpretation of what you have done? When does it fail? Like that. Please think of follow-up questions that you are able to answer, and that has to also be evidenced in when you write your research profile as a part of your CV. Okay, and we expect the researchers to broadly fall into these categories. There are some who are doing what are called variant researching. That is, you give them a tool like Abacus, and they can just run the tool, and they can just modify some boundary conditions and run. That's about it. Okay, just a variant. And then there are some who are adaptive researchers. Okay, that is, they can actually change some of the equations and run. And then there are creative researchers. They may actually be writing user-defined functions, create user-defined elements, and write some subroutines and all that. So you can see that there's a gradation. And we expect the researchers, as they progress, to go upper and upper level. So always ask yourself, are you a variant researcher? Are you an adaptive researcher, or a creative researcher? Ask people to check with you and then categorize you. What happens is that is what is going to tell how much you'll get paid. Obviously, the creative researchers will be paid a lot and adaptive research a little bit less, and the variant researchers are very less. Okay, so if you want to have a very good job, remember that you have to be creative. Okay, and that is something that you have to basically put effort. Okay, and entitlement. Many of us actually in India, unfortunately, we have this system of class one, what do you call, tier one, tier two institutes and all that thing. So there is a tendency for us to have some entitlement. Okay, and that is something wrong, because the value of IIT stamp is diminishing. We have too many IITs. Okay, so if you say I'm from an IIT, I mean, okay, you can then ask, okay, fine, that's okay. There are a lot of IITs, no problem. So we should not go with the stamp. We should go by our own substance. Okay, and grades are not going to be very relevant, because the companies are going to evaluate you separately. They will conduct a separate exam to evaluate you. Okay, and people are always looking at employability as in, can you do what I have as a problem in my company? Okay, so have these in mind when you write your CV. So if you have a 9 out of 10 CGPA, it's great, but maybe that's not useful when it comes to solving a problem. Maybe you don't have experience in the topic that I am looking for. So therefore, do not put too much effort only into the grades. Employability is also important. Do not expect that you will be given a plum job just because you're from IIT, because today there are a lot of them already. So always, it's always a good thing that substance is important, always. Okay, it's always good for everybody that way. So from the perspective of an employer, the return on investment is something that is going to be important. So if you expect a job, let us say 18 lakhs per annum, now you have to see how does the company get 18 lakhs worth from our work. Okay, that is something that we have to be conscious. So always see what is it. Okay, what do you offer? What are you offering? Okay, for the salary that they are giving. So this is something that we have to be very conscious. Okay, so at this juncture, I would enable the second quiz, and then also see. Okay, so I want you to tell me which of these aspects is important when you are going to take a decision about your career. Let us see quickly. Some of you who can give the option. So I just was hiding the results because I wanted to vote without any bias of what others are doing, and I will show all the results anyway in the end. So go ahead and then poll. Okay, we have crossed 20. So I will just show the results at this point, and then we will also count the overall results later on also. So you see that a peer environment is what you seem to like. Okay, and social esteem is important, but apparently not that important. And salary is really only a second priority. That's quite interesting. Okay, so I will come back to that in a moment. Okay, so you can see that when you choose the career, there are a lot of things that play a role, and obviously to be surrounded by people like you is very important. That's something that you have to pay attention. Salary is only secondary, and you are correct on that. In terms of attitude, I'm very happy to see this outcome. Now, I want you to realize that today research is actually driven by accountability. Okay, so no longer we can do blue sky research. Okay, so it's important for us to ensure that when we apply for jobs, etc., we have to make ourselves accountable and look accountable, so that they see that they are getting the right person in. Okay, and they are going to look at your aptitude, background, and what kind of a research community culture you are coming from. Now, this is where actually the IITs have an advantage over the universities, because the research culture of many universities is not up to the mark. I'm sorry to say, but it is a degradation that is not the fault of the universities. It is a fault of, for example, the circumstances which don't allow the universities to be raising funds as they want, or being able to attract funds from the government. So it's very unfortunate. But the fact is that the research environment in the IITs is definitely much more productive today than in some of the universities, and therefore that is also something that is going to play a role. Now, we are looking at a long-term commitment when we do a PhD, and it's qualitatively different kind of an academic study. Okay, and as I mentioned to you, the job opportunities are less, and we are going to be over-specialized. Okay, and at the end of it, we are supposed to be a leader of a research group, and sometimes we want to do a PhD simply because it is required for a university job. So AICT has put up a rule that you have to have a PhD to be able to be a college teacher in a university. So the reasons for you to do a PhD may be very different. But remember that it will mean lesser job opportunity and over specialization, which is something that we have to be very conscious. And we have to also look at the resource availability, practical application, timeline, and feasibility. I have already mentioned some of these aspects. When you choose a problem to basically talk about it in your job profiles. Now, let us say your job profile is about out of lab skill research, simply because you are in a project which requires that. For example, you have worked on synchrotron facility. Obviously, you cannot apply for job saying that, okay, I want a synchrotron facility beside my lab. You can't ask for that because there are only 3 or 4 in the world. Okay, so don't ask for facilities that are not going to be easy. So you have to be alert that, okay, your PhD is your PhD, you have learned to be a researcher, leave it behind and go on to a job where you have to adjust with what is available. So if you have worked on a ISRO project, then you cannot say, I am going to fly rockets every week. Sorry, no, that's very expensive business, right? And let us say you have worked on a nuclear engineering project in IGCAR Kalpakam, and you are going to apply for jobs. You cannot say, no, can you please arrange for a nuclear plant because I want to do this research. Okay, so these are the kind of realities that you have to accept. That like a tsunami, for example, you have worked on tsunami research, and or for example cyclones, etc., or hazardous environment like radiation exposure, etc. So when you do research on these topics, please be alert that you can't expect the same thing for your career, because that's not going to be very easy. So here I want to just take one more survey, because quickly I would like to make this. One second. Yeah. Okay, so what is the reason for your choice of academic career, which you have all mentioned as one of your priorities? Because the way we ask for a job also tells us what is it that we want, and that has to be sometimes hidden and sometimes exposed depending upon what it is. Okay, so obviously we should not tell without a job I can't simply live. I mean, that may not look good in the beginning. Okay, but that may be true for many people. So you have to be very clever about that aspect also. Okay. Okay, so we have got quite a good results now. I'm going to show them now to you. So I'm very pleased to see that majority of you are saying that the choice of career is basically search for truth, and very few are actually saying it's for survival, and most of you just don't care about the social esteem aspects of it. Well, that's very interesting, because as I will show you, it is something that is going to appear in a moment. Okay. So there are these requirements of the needs for the research in the society, why they do actually offer jobs, etc. Development, esteem of the country. For example, why does India have to do anything to do with moon? I mean, we have hungry people. Why don't we go and feed the hungry before we send something to the moon? But it's also about esteem needs of the country. We want to be standing on par with other countries in the world. Okay, there is those aspects also, and of course the perpetuation of scientific spirit and all that. So in this context, I want to just tell you that in Germany, for example, you have got different societies that offer research of different types. Max Planck Society always does fundamental research, whereas Fraunhofer Society always does industrial research, and so on. Okay, but in India, for example, we have a situation. While in Germany, every society, every body does research of its type. In India, it's like everybody can do everything. Okay, this is something I want you to be conscious. For example, today universities are being asked to do startups, okay, and patents, but actually that is the job of those who are in the industry. Okay, and earlier, CSIR labs were actually supposed to do industrial research, but today they can actually award degrees also, which is the job of the university. Okay, and then industries are being asked to fund basic research through, for example, the CSR funding, whereas the responsibility to fund basic research is of the government. Okay, so you can see that in India, I mean, I'm not being critical of the policy, but it is governed by certain constraints that we are going through. There's no problem in terms of the reasons why we are there, but I'm telling you the fact. The fact is that in Germany, universities only will grant degrees. Nobody else can do that. Labs will perform basic research, and industries support applied research. In India, that is not the case. Now, I want you to remember this when you want to make up your mind for your career. When you prepare your CV, remember that these are the kind of realities, which actually is sometimes a good opening, because let us say you want to like teaching, but then due to circumstances you are to take up a job in a CSI lab. Well, luckily in India, you can also teach and do industrial research, okay, by being in a CSI lab. Okay, and let us say you are fascinated to run a company, but then you also want to be in a university job. Well, in India, that is quite possible. Okay, in IITs particularly, that is very much desirable also. So have these, flexibilities that are in India, which may appear as a confusion, but sometimes it's also an opportunity. So keep that in mind in when you prepare your CV. Okay. So one last survey. Let me just quickly open this. Yeah. Okay, one last survey, and then let us see what will come out. Okay, so we have got that already, and okay, so we have got that already. Sorry. So let me just go back and then move further. Okay, and this is where I was telling the reason why you chose search for truth is impressive for me is as follows. There's something called the hierarchical needs, as proposed by Abraham Maslow, and he mentioned that this hierarchy, the survival is here. Okay, and this is basically self-actualization or search for truth. So if you are up, that means that is great. Okay, and social esteem is comes below that, safety and stability, etc., much below. This is survival is even more below. So if you are here, I would say, okay, I can say that be here. Okay, then I would say that your needs are at the highest point as visualized by many of the researchers in social sciences. Now Abraham Maslow has visited Nellore during Second World War time in India, and he found that it's not necessarily to climb from each level to be able to be at the top. That means it's not necessary to actually be having enough money to have the survival and enough safety for your survival and your employment and property, etc., and then you have a family, etc., and then go to the social system, and then only go and think about the truth. You can actually directly be here. Okay, so that's what he discovered when he went and interviewed some teachers in Nellore. So it's possible for us to actually be not very rich, but still be at the highest level, and in India it's very common, and I'm very happy that most of you actually are at the top. Okay, the hierarchical needs, as you see the research scholar initially wants a scholarship, then he wants a job or she wants a career, and then you want to be in a good organization and you want to grow in your career, and then of course you also want your original thoughts to take shape. And what I want to tell you that if you think that this is a sequence that you want to go, then you are actually falling into the hierarchy of Abraham Maslow. But I must say that you can directly be here, okay, as a researcher up from the very beginning, and that is actually also possible. Okay, and SOP, okay, statement of purpose. Statement of purpose, when you want to think of, please also read the book by Daniel Pink. It's called, the book title is called Drive. Okay, and there he says that apart from purpose, you also need to take into aspects of mastery and autonomy which count towards intrinsic motivation that keeps you happy and working all the time. Okay, so mastery as in ability to see that you are improving at your task, and autonomy as in ability to decide how you are going to do your task. So these two are also very important factors apart from the purpose. Okay, so when you write your SOP, remember that you address these aspects, because those who are more mature in judging people going by these kind of researches that have come in the social sciences realize that these are all the three factors that are important. And the reason why you want to go for a career should be that you are seeking for this. Okay, by flow, I mean it is a state of mind where you are doing a lot of work, very hard work, which is at a high skill level. Okay, this is high skill level, and it's also high challenge level. Okay, so you are actually seeking a high skill and high challenge kind of an environment, because you can be then in a state of flow which makes you work very hard for a lot of hours in a day, and still you are very energetic. Okay, and your director is an example for that, Professor B.S. Murthy. Any time in the day you see he's very energetic and he's working very hard. Okay, so I want you to just target this kind of a scenario when you talk. And there's a book by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi about the flow, and when you read about that, you understand all these states how they come. Okay, a neural surgeon who does a 10-hour surgery is in a state of flow. Okay, for example. Okay, and there's another book I want to recommend to you when you are thinking about these directions. Marilee Adams' book on the mindset is also very important. The learner path that she discussed in that book is very valuable. Very often we fall into the judge's pitch, and this is to be avoided, and we should go towards the learner path. And that is something that I have mentioned to you just the beginning of this session. I said that mindset, the different mindset about that should be something that you can keep in mind. Okay, that is, don't be judgmental. This is what I want you to be having. Don't be judgmental, don't be reactive, be responsive. Don't say that you know everything, and you should value that not knowing something is fine. Don't be rigid, be flexible. Don't say either or, but sometimes both are possible. Don't defend yourself all the time. You should always be curious. Okay, this is curious. Okay, and also so on. So okay, so mindset is very important. It has to come through, okay, in your SOP as well as in these things. I want you to be aware of some of the aspects when you write your SOP. Okay, try to be aware of international status of the subject, national status of the subject, and whether some of these equipment or facilities are being denied in India, then therefore you want to work towards that, and whether it is relevant to the society. Okay, and opportunity cost, that is, what is it that we will lose as a country if you don't do that work. Okay, these are the kind of things I want you to be aware of when you prepare your SOP. Okay, because one engages in the interview to ask all these aspects time to time. Okay, and the TRL levels also is a concept that many students do not get exposed to, and that is something that you should read about. That is, everything that we work on has a TRL level in labs, which is at 1 to 3, and in applied research it will be between 4 and 6, and when it comes to a product level it will go to 7 to 9. Okay, so in the labs we are here, but obviously you have to go further to launch a product. So we must be aware of that. The reason is as follows: if you are working on a topic which is already reaching TRL level 8 in labs, in industry, there's no point doing TRL level 2 on it in lab, okay, in an academic environment. For example, I'll give you an example of flexible electronics. Flexible electronics are already a reality. Samsung has already released a folding phone. So then what is the point in working on flexible electronics in a lab today? Because when will your lab research see outcome? Because Samsung has already launched the product. So be aware of the TRL levels before you work, because if you are going to show that in your CV or in your SOP, it's not going to be easy to convince people, because you are working on a TRL level very low when the market has already moved to high TRL levels. So be aware of the TRL levels for your topic. Another concept that students are also not aware, which I want to mention, is something called a Gartner hype cycle. Okay, by Gartner hype cycle, I mean every technology in the world falls at some point of this hype cycle. That is, initially there is a nucleation of that particular topic, and then there is a lot of research that happens in the lab, and then there is a promise that maybe it can do a lot of good. Okay, and there's people are excited, and this is the hype basically. Okay, and then as people see the hype, they may say that, okay, I mean, there's a lot of promise, but where is it? Is it not happening enough? So there's a trough of disillusion. Okay, where they say, oh, it's a lot of hype, but it's not yet there. But then the work is continuing, and you actually go up in the enlightenment, because actually you can start delivering things, and eventually you have a industrial productivity happening. So take the example of, for example, the optical character recognition. Optical character recognition 30 years back was somewhere here. Okay, and people thought, okay, if you can recognize characters by computer scanning, that's great. But then after some time, people were disillusioned because there are some spelling mistakes, and it can't detect the language, and if the font is different, it doesn't work, etc. So all that research happened in this phase. And today, where are we? Today we are here, because if you show a text using Google phone, you can actually read the text immediately, because it can detect the language also. Okay, so like this, the hype cycle is something is available for all techniques. And here is an example to show you what are the different phases of that. Please read about it in the internet. Enough information is available. So here is something that is very valuable. The Gartner reports show you emerging technologies, and I want you to find where is your research in the Gartner cycle. Okay, let us say you are working on, let us say, IoT platform. Okay, so IoT platform in 2018 is in this way. That is, you are going towards the trough of disillusionment, but remember that it is still ahead of the many of the techniques which are actually going up still. Okay, for example, compared to quantum computing, IoT platforms are much ahead in terms of development, and this is where we want to be. So assess what is your topic, at what part of the Gartner quadrant or Gartner hype cycle you are, and propose your SOP in such a way that you are in this direction. You want to go in this direction. That will actually show that you are aware of what is going on, and also put you in the right perspective. Okay. Okay, so at this moment, I skip one or two things. I want you to also look at the vision documents of different disciplines. They are available for mechanical, civil, electrical, etc. Look at the vision documents and ensure the following aspects to be there in your SOP. That is, what are your needs for seeking a job? Okay, your needs for seeking a job. Don't say I need job because I need money to live. Okay, don't say that. Okay, it may be true, but don't say that. You say whatever is up in the Maslow's hierarchy is good. Okay, and what is your motivation? And remember Daniel Pink's work. Don't just write only about purpose, but also about mastery and autonomy. How you intend to have intrinsic motivation in that particular topic. And what is the state of the art of the topic? Try to be aware, as I mentioned to you, using Gartner's hype cycle. You should see what's the state of the art for the topic, and what gaps do you want to address by your research job. You want to be sure, and the vision. What is the vision that the whole world is thinking about in your topic, and how you fit in that particular vision? I think all these elements have to be there in a SOP to convey that you are actually well informed and having an attitude of growth that is taking you forward. Okay, so with that, I also ask you to read a book, a nice book by Katie Barker. It's called At the Helm. That is to be a lab manager, or as a scientist. So, okay, this book has a lot of interesting points. I'm going to share these slides with your team so you can go through them at a junction later. So it says that what are the various qualifications to run a lab? You should be able to gather and analyze data. You should be able to organize things. You should be having confidence to act on intuition, gut feelings about certain things. You should have resilience to act against any wrong things that happen in your work. For example, something has failed, but you should be able to come back and then work on it, etc. You should be honest. You should have integrity. You should have good communication skills, and of course, your scientific know-how should be very wide. And like this, in this book, there are a lot of some tips about how to be a leader in a job, and that is what you are all going to be. And if you read this book, you will actually be aware of many things in a short time. Okay, so ability to work productively with difficult people is a trait that people are interested to know. Ability to work in high stress environment, that is natural. Today we are all in a stressful environment, and we should be able to deliver things still. Persistence, we must be able to show perseverance in pursuing our research goals. You should be able to navigate around things, difficulties, circumventing rules that actually prevent you from doing something. Circumventing and not breaking. Okay, there's a difference between breaking rules and circumventing rules. Okay, and ability and courage to start something even without knowing it. Okay, that is the trait of a researcher, and that curiosity and that gut feeling should be there with you to start. Okay, so do also have a peek about what is Edward de Bono's lateral thinking concept. And there are 6 different ways you are supposed to look at any issue. One way is the blue hat, conductor's hat, how to manage things. Red hat, intuition and feelings. White hat, factual information. Black hat, the judge's hat. Yellow hat, the optimist's hat. Green hat, the creative hat. So all these different aspects must be looked at for your topic, and ensure that your perspectives are complete as you write your SOP as well as when you write your CV, so that people see that there's a very mature individual who is showing up in my lab or my organization, and they look forward to having you on board. Okay, so we have only another couple of minutes, so I want to thank you, but then before that I want to just quickly ask you one last thing about this. Okay, so just put one word and then I will show you what you all have said. Okay, there is one thing, at least one thing you would have heard, something that has attracted your attention from this 1 hour lecture. Let us see what is that. Okay, these words will be showing up as a word cloud as you type. Okay, so we have started to get some words. Okay, so I will show you just in a moment. Feel free to write anything, because I am not going to find out who wrote what. Okay, so don't worry. Whatever you have heard that you thought was interesting enough that you want to go and read about that, you can mention here, and that's a feedback for me about how this session went. All right, so we have got 30 participants responding. I would say that is enough to at least to show. And here is what is the word cloud. So the more the people who said something was going to be highlighted, and then the rest of the words are with less people. So whichever are in big font, they are the ones which basically said by more number of people, basically. So with this, I stop my presentation, and for your alert, I will just allow you to view the results of all the 4 surveys now, and so you can do that whenever I stop the poll. I will stop it at end of the session. So with this, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And Diksha, I'm done. Thank you for this chance to talk to you all, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Like, I cannot tell you how informative this was. And so, firstly, thank you so much for accepting our invite. And it was really interesting to fill those polls. And we are definitely going to read the books you have suggested. You made us aware of all the nitty-gritty and nuances of writing a CV and a SOP. Like, in your CV, just apart from your educational qualifications, what all you should include, and how can your CV can give a like good impact. Like, if not written, how can your CV reflect your growth mindset and how self-aware you are, and and so it was great. And also, like, while writing SOP, you mentioned that one should keep in mind that the topic on which you're writing, it should be relevant, and you should always check the TRL of the topic. So thank you so much, and we'll take up some questions, if any, from the audience.
Yes, yes. You also watch out the time. You may be having a schedule that is packed.
So we have 15 minutes we can take.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to answer if there's any question. Yeah. So I will stop the poll so that we can view all the results. Okay. Yeah. and maybe I will also go back to presentation. Yeah, that's where I stopped. Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to ask. They may be asking through a chat, or would they ask you and you read it out? How is it?
So they can ask on their own.
Oh, I see. So they can unmute and talk. Fine.
Yeah.
Please, one or two, please do unmute and talk, because I like lectures to be interactive. In my classroom, I make my students come to the board and do things and all that. So in an online environment, you can only just unmute and talk. So please do that. So Vishwas is asking, can we get the presentation? Sure. I will send the PDF back to the organizers and they can distribute at their convenience. Sure. I will do it right away.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So good morning, sir. It's a wonderful talk. Nice. Thanks very much. Thanks for that talk. I learned a lot from that. I would like to one question, fundamental question, something. So when we seek a, let's say, a job in the industry level, the most important thing is information. Where to get that information? What's the kind of job opportunities available in the industries, the various kind of industries?
Yes.
Can you shed light on
yes.
how to get that information? How to
So usually you must follow that particular industry's profile in LinkedIn, because that's where they actually talk about what is happening in the industry. Now they may post some job opportunities in LinkedIn or in any other portal. Very often they will definitely have a portal in their own company website. So when we look for the job opportunities, let us say in one company, then you should go to Google and ask a question: who is the competitor for this company? Okay, so maybe I just simply minimize and open this tab. Are you able to see my screen still? Okay, yes. Okay, so let us say Sandvik. Okay, so who is the competitor for Sandvik? Okay, now you see that there are certain companies that are competitors to Sandvik: General Electric, Siemens, Inverse Toolswork. Okay, so you can then see that who are the other companies who are likely to offer a job that is similar to Sandvik, let us say, for example. Okay, so like that, when you go to LinkedIn, go and pick up the companies who you can come up with immediately, and then in Google you find out who are their competitors. Come back to LinkedIn and follow up those competitors also, and then there will be certain groups meant for certain topics, so you follow those groups. Then you start seeing that information about various opportunities of work are coming to your place, not necessarily jobs, but opportunities to work. Okay, and as you come, then you can actually look at their respective companies' portfolios to see where they are actually posting jobs. You may also make friends with your contacts who may be in a position there, but you are able to relate to them through your college or through some direct contact. Don't stalk them. Okay, but you can actually go through your own contacts, and then do propose, asking, saying that I have desire to go in this particular career path, and is there an opening, etc. So you can do that conversation offline, and you should always feel free to say that I can give a 15-minute presentation to your group, and then tell you what I'm doing and all that. So please be proactive. Please show initiative in looking for this. Do your homework. This is what is actually missing in many of us in India. We always expect somebody to lay out everything and bring to the placement cell, and then we just go like a king and then pick up the job. That's not how it works generally. How we expect people to do is do your homework, show initiative, and sure enough, there is a very good job that is out there for you waiting. And they also will be happy because they see that you have done your homework and come to them, and that is seen as initiative, and then they like your attitude. So feel free to do that. Do not rely on your own placement cell to arrange something good for you, because that's not going to work for very long.
Understood, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah,
That's really informative.
Any other questions? Okay, sir. By the time others come up with some questions, I have one. It's a very trivial one, but around us, we here everyone saying be genuine, be you, be what you are.
Yes.
And in your slides you said be politically correct all the time. Like
Yes.
your profile or whenever someone searches about you, something negative should not come up.
Yes.
So, like
The way to
these
sure.
two go hand in hand.
Yes, that the way to do them together is actually to make yourself politically correct, right? So let us say you have a viewpoint which is actually not acceptable. So my suggestion is that you change your viewpoint so that you are genuinely politically correct. That's all. So as Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want people, everybody in the world to be politically correct, nice to each other, and holding a very neutral view and respectful to each other, etc., then obviously the first person to do that is you, right? And so you change yourself to be politically correct and then show the same thing in the world. I am not suggesting that you be a terrorist inside and then show a saint face outside. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we would like to see politically correct people in our company because we are paying them, right? Now, do you think you can have in Infosys, do you think somebody can actually post misogynistic views in Twitter and then still keep the job in Infosys? No, they'll get fired, right? So what is the lesson? Should you be yourself or should you be misogynist? No. The lesson is you should be actually politically correct. So change yourself and then be that. So I'm not going back from saying that be genuine. You have to be genuine. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to give gyan, okay? So if you ask very basic questions, then it becomes gyan. I don't want. I have given as much as possible a technical side of things, and I have also been a person on the selection side sometimes. So I have tried to give that perspective also, what we look for, etc. So it's okay. We'll leave it at that. No problem. Okay, so if you're done, I will send you the email which has sent me the invitation. I will send the slides, okay, and then they can distribute to anybody who wants it. And I always encourage all of you to please read. Okay, please read books regularly. Do not assume that your scientific papers is all that you need to read. That's not correct. Please keep reading books about all these aspects because we have to be learning from the scholarship of those who wrote those books. Obviously, they are also scientists, but in a different subject. They are scientists in social sciences. Obviously, they have done those conclusions from their own research. So we have to also benefit from that. So I request you to have the book reading habit with you always, and it's a lifetime habit. And the more you keep reading, I guarantee your views will be more and more tempered, and you will be more and more acceptable to wider audience and liked by people for your views. And you can also make more friends because you have more things to share. Okay, so enjoy your career growth, and I wish all of you fantastic opportunities to express yourself in the future, and all the best.
Thank you, sir. Like each of us are going to remember every time we are going to write a SOP or CV. Thank you,
Sure.
sir. Thank you again.
Sure. Okay. So I can take leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
All the best.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.